A very warm welcome, everybody, wherever you are in the world joining this new webinar. It's my new keynote presentation. My name is Adam Hamadache. I am the CEO and founder of digital growth agency Formula that you can see there on the screen. Today, I'm going to be talking about the AI generation gap. How can we build a digital strategy that converts every single type of guest? Every single slide will have a QR code on this. Please use that if you want the slides, or indeed there is a lot of data involved in this presentation today. So I encourage you to download that, download what we call the cheat sheet, which gives you the frameworks, the statistics, and you can use those as a reference point. So feel free to use those. You scan that QR code whenever as I go through. Let me change things up a little bit so you don't need to see my face looking quite so big. You want to look at the slides. So let's go straight into it. Today's session, what are we going to be covering? The AI search shift. What is happening, or what has happened in the last 18 months, but also the last 90 days when it comes to search. The AI generation gap. How are the different generations adopting this technology when it comes to finding and booking their hotels? The changing role of the hotel website, what this means ultimately for our websites. And then I'm going to present to you 3 frameworks to deliver a finely balanced digital strategy, which is particularly difficult at the moment. Then, if you've never done anything before when it comes to AI visibility, or if you're just looking at how to readdress your digital marketing strategy, I'm going to give you a 90-day digital roadmap of the things that you have to do, or where I would start if you're starting from scratch tomorrow. So let's get straight into it. The AI search shift. What is actually changing in search behavior? Well, let's look at the last 18 months. Search behavior has changed more in the last 18 months than the previous 18 years. And I think that's really, really important point to sort of hammer home. AI, obviously, is rapidly reshaping discovery, research, comparison, and booking behavior. So it's across the entire booking journey. And let's look at probably the biggest shift that we've seen. ChatGPT took 2 months to get to 100 million users. As of this year, very recently, it is at 900 million weekly active users, which is absolutely mad. Let's put that into the context of the internet and Google. The internet, for 100 or 900 million users, took 10 years. Google took 13 or 12 and a half. ChatGPT has taken 3.3 years to achieve that. That is the scale of the growth that we've seen from that particular platform. And travelers in particular have adopted it en masse. So they're now they expect AI assistance. Booking.com survey found that 80% of travelers now want AI assistance during the booking journey. And AI assisted travel planning has increased since 2024. And that's again from booking.com, and that's gone over 4-fold. So let's look at what's actually happened with Google. Google search has fundamentally changed. It is about to change again even more, which I'll come on to. But over the last 18 months, 50% of Google searches now feature AI overviews. This is really significant. So that's the AI bit right on the middle of the search engine result page. This is really significant because now 60% of all Google searches end without a click. This is why so many hotel websites are seeing a reduction in organic traffic over the last year or so, because there is less traffic to be going around. So let's look at the last 90 days now. Some of the biggest shifts in travel search have actually happened only in the last few months. So the big one is OpenAI, roughly about 90 days. OpenAI changed direction. They decided that being the world's best recommendation engine is actually a bigger opportunity than becoming the booking engine itself. So they'd run an experiment called instant checkout, and then they decided this isn't really for us. We don't want to own the customer, so we're going to do brand handoffs. And this is reflected in the likes of booking.com when you can see, when you enable that app within the ChatGPT interface, it allows you to view this particular hotel on booking.com and complete your purchase there. So if we look at the impact on hotels, I would suggest this is a positive one. Direct booking apps like the Hotels Network, they exist, but they're pretty unproven. So these allow for direct bookings. It's early days on this, but I think the fact that OpenAI or ChatGPT is not willing to own that customer is a win for hotels. This only happened a few weeks ago. TikTok Go launched in the USA. What does this mean? Well, TikTok is becoming a booking channel, not just a discovery channel, as we will see when we look at Generation Z. Closing the gap between discovery and booking, but only through OTAs, and creator content is becoming a distribution strategy. So effectively, what TikTok is allowing you to do as a content creator is to publish around hotels and then share a slice of the commission with OTAs. Unfortunately, this is only you can only make bookings through an OTA partner. I think those are Expedia, Trip.com, and Booking.com, if I'm not mistaken. The impact for hotels is pretty negative. Nobody really knows. It's only been out for a few weeks, but one can anticipate that we're going to see fewer branded searches of your hotel name on traditional search. What that means is people are going to discover you through TikTok and then be less likely to actually open up a new browser, or a new app, type in your name, and then start their journey from there. They can just go straight through to booking.com or whoever and actually make that booking. So we expect to see less direct web traffic and probably fewer direct bookings too. ChatGPT ads have arrived in the US. These have been going now for a few weeks or a few months, and OpenAI is already projecting ad revenue of 2.5 billion in 2026. That gets a huge uplift by the projections that by 2029, it's going to be up to 100 billion in ad revenue. Now, it's yet to be seen. This is only still happening in the US, but the impact for hotels, I think, is going to be largely positive. The paid traffic landscape is saturating, and that could possibly make ad costs a little bit lower, considering as people start moving their budgets into ChatGPT and out of Google and Meta. And this is the big one. I won't talk too much at length about this today. There is an enormous amount of things to say about this. Google described it as the biggest change to the Google search bar in 25 years. In a nutshell, Google is transforming search from keywords to conversations. That's been part of the conversation now for some time, but the new changes they've made in the search bar sort of really amplify that. Google is moving from links to answers. If you consider that Google's page one has always been about some ads and some links, and you click on, you ask something and it takes you where you need to go, that will effectively change because Google is now trying to answer as much as possible in a completely new interface. So Google will start to complete tasks such as planning trips and even making bookings for you, being a far more agentic approach rather than a search engine. So impact for hotels, positive and negative, I think. Fewer opportunities to win traffic through traditional SEO alone. Getting on page one of Google used to be the holy grail in marketing. That gave you relatively, if you got up there and you stayed up there, that would give you a healthy amount of traffic and hopefully bookings as a result. But now that will effectively cease to exist. But increasingly, visibility, your total visibility, will depend on AI confidence, Google included, not just rankings. So getting your AI visibility in a really nice place is essential now, I would argue. So some big changes. I'm not going to go into that in too much detail. Let's look at how the generations are adapting. The market is splitting into different search behaviors. How we discover, research, validate, and book hotels really differ depending on our age. And obviously, this is a sweeping sort of stereotypical approach. Not all people of these generations marry this up, but I've tried to include as much credible information and data to give you an informed opinion about what it is that you should be doing with your own strategies. So to do this, I want to first introduce you to Sophie. I've asked, obviously, ChatGPT to create me 4 avatars for the 4 main generations. And Sophie is the starting point. She's our Gen Z or Gen Z traveler. She's aged between 18 and 28. And if Sophie could speak to you in your board meeting or in your marketing meeting, she would say, if you want to get me to book, I want inspiration before I want information. So Sophie discovers hotels through TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and ChatGPT. She searches for things like cool hotels in Lisbon, best rooftop hotels in Barcelona, or boutique hotels for girls' trip. And when it comes to the statistics, 64% of Gen Z use TikTok as a search engine. 40% prefer TikTok or Instagram over Google for discovery. 74% use social media for travel inspiration. 57% say short form video influences travel decisions. And 53% trust influencers more than traditional advertising. I did mention there's lots of stats, so if you want these as a reference point, please do use that QR code. So what does that leave us with? Well, Sophie, how does she book? She discovers visually. She trusts creators over brands. She validates through reviews, and she books quickly on mobile. Very different to some of the other generations, as we'll see. So my big key takeaway for the Gen Zs, Sophie and her generation, her booking journey is fast, it's social led, and very kind of emotion driven. Let's move on to millennials. This is my group. Let's meet James. And if James was in your marketing meeting, help me make the right decision is really what James wants. James still uses Google heavily, but increasingly layers AI into his research journey. He uses Google, ChatGPT, reviews, YouTube, and OTAs too. He typically searches for best family hotel in the Algarve. And when we look at the stats, well, 60% of millennials now use AI tools during travel planning. 71% compare hotels across multiple websites before booking. 68% say reviews heavily influence booking decisions. And 65% prefer booking direct when clear value is offered. So how does James book? Well, he compares multiple tabs. He researches extensively and validates through reviews and then looks for direct booking value. So my takeaway for the millennials, AI assists the decision, but rarely makes it alone. They research, compare, and then make informed, logical decisions. So we move on to Gen X. Sarah is aged between 45 and 60. And if she was in your marketing meeting, she would be saying, I already know roughly what I want. She relies heavily on Google, Booking.com, TripAdvisor, brand websites. Her typical searches would be 4-star spa hotel in the Lake District. And 49% of Gen X travelers still rely primarily on traditional search engines. 51% still regularly use OTAs during trip planning, and 67% say reviews are essential before booking. And finally, 61% prefer desktop browsing for major travel purchases. So if we crunch that data, what do we end up with? Well, Sarah compares carefully. She values clarity and reassurance. She still visits multiple websites and often books direct if trust is high. My big takeaway is that the Gen X booking journey is structured, comparison-led, and less AI influenced. That leaves us with David. And if he was in your marketing meeting, he'd simply say, just make this easy for me. He prefers Google, direct websites, OTAs, and recommendations. He typically searches for things like quiet hotel in Tenerife. And 29% of boomers say they would use AI for travel recommendations. That's just recommendations, not even sort of, booking decisions. 68% still begin travel planning with Google search. 63% prefer booking through familiar brands or websites. And 58% say customer service influences booking decisions more than price. So we break that right down. David researches slowly. He trusts established brands, often books on a desktop, and may even still call the hotel directly. The booking journey is traditional, reassurance-led, and human first. So my takeaway, search has fragmented into multiple entry and influence points. Gen Z, social first discovery. Millennials, hybrid AI assisted journeys. Gen X, Google and OTA comparison, and boomers are traditional search behavior. So my final takeaway on this, AI search is growing rapidly, but traditional search still drives enormous revenue for now. And I think this is the point. We need to invest in AI, but we must not neglect some of the more traditional search behaviors. So how does this affect our marketing, in particular, the hotel website? Why AI has changed everything we used to know about awareness. And to explain this, I think we need to sort of break down exactly what the role of digital marketing is before AI came along. It had two roles in my view. Number one, build digital assets that inform, entice, and convert. And we do that by designing websites, we create social media feeds, and we optimize our aggregator listings like booking.com. The second role is simply to drive visibility and traffic to those assets. We can do that through organic, and we can do that through paid. And you invest in one and you pay for the other. And generally, a good strategy would include both versions of that marketing. The problem we have now is that when people make a branded search or a non-branded search, so branded being something that contains your brand name, or a non-branded search like hotels in London, what used to happen is we either got them to our website or we didn't. But now we have, and this was one of our owned digital assets. What's increasingly happened is this bit in the middle, what I like to refer to as your AI shadow. It's the unowned digital asset that you didn't really want, but increasingly that's the first thing that potential customers see before they actually visit something that you've built or curated or designed yourself. And this is the most important digital asset, I believe, because it is an interpretation of your brand. Think of it like your USPs, your unique selling points, your online reputation, and an impartial critique all wrapped into one. And this can take many different forms, but generally one of these two. The first is a 1 to 2 sentence recommendation. Very similar to what you see here on traditional search, where you see your meta description. But in AI search, or your AI shadow, it's very different. It's similar to a meta description, but you did not write it. So if you look at that traditional search meta description, it's highly considered, whereas that AI shadow version, it differs every single time. And importantly, the hotel had no say about how it presented itself to that particular customer. At worst, it can go into a pros and cons evaluation. And we tend to see this when people are engaging with ChatGPT, and they'll say, oh, tell me about this hotel. All right, tell me about the pros and cons, or is this hotel worth staying at? And inevitably, this stuff here that I've encircled, this is your gatekeeper content. This is the negative stuff that on that first impression of your property, increasingly customers are starting to see that. And this is going to decide whether or not they take their booking journey further, or indeed they stop right there. So why is this so important? Well, this is the new first impression of your brand. The digital assets we've built, curated, and optimized are only seen if the customer goes beyond the AI shadow. So how your business is described across the web matters more than where you rank or how nice your website look. And to illustrate this, you can see here in the image when I was in Athens and I said, where can I get the best moussaka in Athens? And it presented this Leondi traditional Greek restaurant. Fabulous reviews, really highly rated. But increasingly, the two images that I've encircled are drawn in from reviews, not the more polished image that you can see there, for the image that I've not circled. So again, this is all about that first impression. So what does it mean for the hotel website? Well, to illustrate this further, let's look at what has happened over the course of the last few years, but when it comes to in the context of the marketing funnel, which you can see on the screen. The marketing funnel simply works by assuming that every customer who ever buys anything online goes through a state of awareness, interest, consideration, intent, and purchase. And using this approach, what we would tend to see is, previously, before AI really took hold, somebody would make a search on a traditional search engine, and it gives us very little information. We don't have much to go on. So inevitably, when we see something like this that would appear on Google, then we click the link because there's, that looks good. I'm interested enough to go to that next phase and explore the website, or it could be an OTA equally. Where we are now is that AI search is doing more of the heavy lifting. It's taking our customers from awareness and interest into consideration, simply because it gives us more information. AI search moves us further down the funnel before we visit our website. Tell me more about this. Or does the spa have this? All of these questions we can engage with an AI chat platform that we couldn't with traditional search. So we're much more likely to be higher chance of conversion when we land on the website. Where we're moving to is this, which I think is going to be only a matter of weeks and months away in late 2026, where guests will regularly develop the intent to purchase within AI search before being handed off to a website to complete their transaction. So, and that could be OTA, or it could be your hotel website. So the net result is that we're going to get a lot less traffic, but hopefully much higher intent traffic coming to us because they've worked out whether or not they want to stay with us before they've even landed on our site. So my argument is simply that your website is no longer your most important digital asset. More potential customers will see your AI shadow than your website. So we must prioritize accordingly. So we've covered a lot of ground so far, and I think now's a good time to pause and have a quick recap. Where are we? The search landscape has changed. This is fragmenting guest behavior by generations, as we've explored, and it's created a new, vitally important digital asset called your AI shadow. So what do we do is the question you might be asking. Well, that's why we've developed a framework called a finely balanced digital strategy. Carbs, proteins, and fats is the framework for sustainable growth. It has never been more important to make sure that your strategy is balanced because of the fragmented way of how people are finding and booking their hotels. So let's go into this in detail. The successful hotels of the next few years will build balanced digital growth systems. So carbs is that your fuel source. That's the initial point of AI visibility and discovery. Protein is your conversion and revenue, and fats is your loyalty and retention, which I'll skim through. So let's go through them one by one. There's a lot to go through, but it's essential that all of these parts are working for you to deliver that balanced strategy. Number one is customer clarity. Clearly defining who your hotel is for, so guests, platforms, and AI can instantly recognize your value. This matters because in an AI-driven discovery world, ambiguity is basically akin to being invisible. So your action, and I'm going to give you why it matters and a simple action on each of these slides. Define your hotel in one sentence. This hotel is best for walkers who want a relaxing break in the Cotswolds, or something to that effect. That moves us on to the A, which is authority mentions. Why this matters? Well, trusted third parties talking about your hotel gives effectively confidence from AI borrows this confidence from credible sources. And the more authoritative the mention, the more your hotel is surfaced in AI generated recommendations. So, a very simple couple of actions I would suggest: pursue press coverage and travel guide features, good digital PR. And probably the quickest wins for hotels is trade press coverage. Generally, if you've got something meaningful to say and you create a press release, there's a good chance that it will be featured, and that will fuel your visibility on AI platforms. The R stands for reviews. Increasingly shapes AI's understanding of your hotel strengths. This matters because AI reads patterns, not just star ratings, and specific language in reviews like quiet room, fast check-in, exceptional breakfast. These all feed AI discovery. So my action to you would be simply encourage specificity. What did you enjoy the most, rather than please leave a review or how did we do? We want that specific feedback to be published on platforms like Google or TripAdvisor. And it's really important to address recurring issues. If you know you've got tired rooms and you have a refurbishment planned, keep reiterating the fact that the refurbishment is coming. Sorry, we couldn't do it any sooner. B stands for brand consistency. So why this matters? It's all about aligning messaging everywhere online. And it matters because inconsistency reduces trust, and conflicting descriptions undermine credibility. So audit your name, address, and phone number on every single channel. And there are 27 that Google looks at, as well as other platforms. So I would be looking not just at the obvious ones. Make sure you've got one positioning statement, one voice, and that is reflected everywhere. It always strikes me how inconsistent names are of even really big, well-known five-star hotels. And these channels can be, you have to be pedantic with it. You can't have an extra dash here or there, or uncapitalized words, all this sort of stuff. It has to be exact. So the S in the CARBS framework stands for strengthen machine readability. This is all about helping AI understand and parse and recommend your hotel. So parsing, P-A-R-S-E, as you can see on the screen, is all about how these AI platforms, or how these large language models read your website. Why this matters: unstructured websites are basically invisible to the algorithms shaping guest discovery. So making sure that you've got structured FAQ sections, schema markup, and clear content hierarchies. That means H1, H2, H3 headers. And answer the questions guests are already asking AI before they reach you. If you know this, stick it on your website so that AIs can easily take that information from you. That's the CARBS. That's going to fuel your AI visibility. Now let's move into conversion and revenue. And we've got a bit more of a longer framework here. Protein, the framework for turning discovery into direct bookings. P stands for paid media. This is frankly just using paid channels to intercept high intent demand. I think there's going to be, if you're not investing in paid, I think you have to in the coming months and years, because organic is looks like it's going to dwindle away. Why this matters: visibility alone does not drive bookings. Organic traffic, as I've said, will reduce enormously in the next 6 months. So concentrate spend on the high intent audiences. Think about retargeted visitors, those people that have visited your website but perhaps did not book. Branded search, and also destination ready travelers. Revenue optimization. Aligning every marketing decision with profitability. Obviously, this warrants its own, probably each of these letters warrants its own presentation and keynote. But the point is, you've got to be looking at this. And this is really important because channel mix, cost of acquisition, ADR, all determine true commercial performance. Your action, I would be looking, your I would be monitoring your OTA disparity frequency, which you can use on tools like the hotels network, as you can see in the screen. This is taken from one of our clients where we were seeing massive growth in visibility and traffic, but we just weren't getting the bookings. So we were scratching our head, what's going wrong? And then we found out, well, 61% of the time, they're cheaper on an OTA. So inevitably, we weren't getting the bookings. Until we can fix that from a revenue management perspective, you're just not going to get the traction. So O stands for offers, giving guests a really compelling reason to book now, directly and on your terms. Why this matters? Well, direct booking is almost always the least convenient option for the customer. Guests need a really clear, emotionally resonant reason to choose direct over an OTA. Your action is simply to make the direct feel unmissable. If we look at the image in the screen, utilizing again things like a rate comparison tool to really communicate those benefits of best rate guarantee, flexible cancellation, whatever it is that you are making available to those customers. T is about targeting, reaching the right guest on the right platform with the right message. I won't go through this again. Again, use that QR code if you want the detail from these. But Gen Z, millennials, Gen X, baby boomers, they all approach discovery in a very different way. So if you know that you are particularly serving the baby boomers, you need to be adapting your strategy accordingly. Experience optimization. This is about removing every point of friction from the booking journey, or it's sometimes referred to as conversion rate optimization. It's really kind of the same thing. Guests simply won't tolerate a poor booking experience, and you should be auditing your mobile user experience from first click all the way through to booking confirmation. And a very, very simple, basic suggestion, forgive me if it's not overly insightful, but I see this happen so much. Do not upload 15 megabyte images to your website. This is going to have a knock-on effect to the speed of your site and ultimately the volume of bookings that you can see through it. Compress those images before uploading to the website. And I've also included the image of the core web vitals, 3 core web vitals that gives you the range that you should be operating in. I won't go into too much detail about those, but largest contentful paint is the one that ultimately determines how quickly your site loads. And you can see there, it's got to load really in about 2.5 seconds. Intent capture is the matching content and landing pages to guest intent. So why this matters, guests arrive closer to booking than ever before, as we explored within that marketing funnel model. And your action is simply to align your landing pages precisely to search intent, as you can see with the image that we used previously, where we targeted families looking for half-term breaks. We drove them to that particular page to really good effect. Non-branded demand is becoming increasingly important. So it's ultimately attracting new customers that didn't know you existed in the first place. Why? Because simply growth comes from expanding your demand pool. So you should be creating destination-led, experience-led content. So, for example, as you can see on the screen, or the example that I've shared, best locations to stay in Amsterdam for the marathon, that is a particular experiential piece of content that will really appeal to a small group of people. And that's going to really serve you well in terms of driving that non-branded demand. But as more working examples, I've taken a screenshot from a client's website, London with three generations without anyone falling out. When London is a month long, not a weekend. Where to stay in London when you're working long days. 3 individual types of guests, and we're speaking directly to them with those content pieces. So that brings us to loyalty and retention, or FATS is the final acronym. Build lasting guest relationships through owned data and sustained engagement. So F is first party data, guest data you actually own. Why? Because website traffic is reducing very fast, and first party data like emails and preferences will grow in importance. So it's really important to capture email at every single touch point. And then probably the most obvious one to do is using things, as you can see on the screen, like an OTA win-back campaign. So those hotels that, those guests that come through booking.com or Expedia and have those encrypted email addresses, we want to make sure that we're sending to those before they expire, normally within 30 days, and getting them to resubscribe to your own list. And I think it's really important here as well to invest in email relevance. Email relevance is so important because we want to keep people engaged. So understanding their preferences and why they subscribed and what they're interested in is becoming essential. Audience nurturing. So really, not just when you're starting to get people subscribing, really starting to engage with them in a sort of a meaningful way. So guest data that you directly own. Guests who discover you today may not convert for months. This is all about building automated guest journeys. And also just sending stories, not just sales offers all the time. It doesn't have to be a bland newsletter. It should be talking about all the benefits of staying, but also really telling the story of what you're all about. T is the penultimate one, the same message amplified across multiple channels. We are in the attention economy. They see your message for the first time on the 11th time. And I think that's such valuable advice to marketers. It's really difficult to get people's attention, and people will ignore you time and time again until they're ready to take notice. Simple actions: resend to unopened emails 48 hours later with a different subject line, and use things like Facebook ad amplification. So effectively taking your email database and uploading it into Facebook and then advertising to those recipients saying, did you see the email? Making it really difficult to ignore. Finally, simple sales emails, purposeful emails that say one thing well and one thing only. The more you say in an email, the less it gets noticed. So create a 90-day roadmap for sending more emails that just have that one single standalone message. Where do we finish? With your 90-day digital roadmap. If I was starting out, I would do FAQs on almost every single page. Your website should offer answer capsules, 2 to 3 sentence summaries. Make sure they're on every main page. A good place to start is your top navigation. Monitor your AI shadow. Track how you're being recommended. Monitor for negative sentiment and understand the cons of choosing your hotel. Structure your website for AI. So add things like an LMS. I can never say this. LLMS.text file, got it, to your website. This is a really simple, quick job, but it's going to help AI find you and read you and pass through your website. Add schema markup to content, events, and FAQs. And finally, fix technical issues. This is becoming massive. So things like missing meta descriptions, descriptive alt text to images, XML sitemap. If that means nothing to you, get that QR code, get the cheat sheet, and it will tell you exactly how to do those things. That brings us to just about the end. I've got 5 key takeaways. There's been so much I've shared today. I hope it's been useful. Let's just summarize. Search behavior is changing faster than anyone expected. The market is fragmenting by generation. Marketing strategy must reflect multiple discovery paths, and you need to be thinking about who your market is and how you adapt your strategy accordingly. Your website is no longer your most important digital asset. Arguably, your AI shadow is. And I gave you my framework for sustainable growth, and that's all about balance: carbs, protein, and fats. Success in the era of AI search depends less on gaming algorithms and more on creating a brand that machines can confidently recommend. I hope today's been useful. What I have done is, I've mentioned it throughout, a breakdown of all the frameworks and all the statistics covered today is on that QR code. You'll be able to download the slides, the cheat sheet, and if you're interested, you can always book a call with me and I'll give you a free AI visibility review on exactly how well your brand is performing. You'll find all of those things on that link. I welcome any questions. Please message me separately on adam@thisisformula.com. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you've really found it useful, and I hope you download those resources using that QR code. Thank you.